What does it really take to grow, modernize, and lead in an industry that is constantly evolving? Well, I am Monica Duani, entrepreneur, insurance, and innovation leader, and someone who believes that transformation isn't something we talked about, it is something we built. On Transcend with M, we sit down with leaders shaping the future of the insurance industry, founders, executives, and operators navigating growth, complexity, and change. They're not just success stories, they're real conversations about structure, resilience, leadership, and the decisions that strengthen businesses from the inside out. Because the future of insurance demands more than growth, it demands readiness. This is Transcend with M, where we rise, modernize, and lead with purpose.
Oh my gosh, Monica, thank you so much for having me back. 5 years ago, season one of your Transcend with M podcast, and here you are 5 years later. I just have to applaud how much you've been through in 5 years. There's been so many changes, and I've been secretly, silently on the back, sideline cheering you on all the way. Both of our journeys have been transformative, really, since we first met. So thank you for having me back on the show. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Melissa Gilbo, founder and CEO of the Women's Business League. And we are now a national platform for women in business. And what we do is it's so much more than networking, right? And I think we talked about this maybe on the first show, how that word feels so heavy. So from year one with WBL to where we are today has been a huge transformation as well. And WBL is coming into our 8th year. 8 years is unbelievable to say. But yeah, the seed of this started from my insurance career. It was what I needed and wanted in my insurance days. So I'm happy to kind of talk about all of that. I'll stop talking for a minute and let you kind of lead the conversation. Like, where do you want to start? I'm here for it all.
Well, this season of Transcend with them is a little bit different because we are actually giving it space to the insurance industry, right? And we are interviewing all these amazing anchors within our industry that either are still in our industry or have evolved from our industry into different things. But with you, the thing that I think we share the most is we understand the power of community, right? And for anyone within or outside our industry, a lot
Mm,
of people take it for granted. A lot of people say, let's network, like you have to network, but do they really understand what that means? Do they really understand that? I mean, everybody's like, oh, yeah, insurance is a relationship business, but what does that really mean? What does it take from you? What is actually the investment that we have to make individually and collectively as community in order to grow and succeed, right? And I think it's ever evolving, right? We're always learning something new. I bet you're learning something new every day. I learn something new every day. I will say, Melissa, that in 5 years, at least for me, I don't know you, it's been an awakening, right? Like I remember our first conversation, we got introduced because I had just left an agency and I had
right.
opened my consulting firm, but I was working at another agency. And this other Melissa that we know in common introduced us. And they're like, oh my God, you guys are so similar. You guys have to talk.
Yes.
So, and it was so interesting that we were both going through this change season of our lives where we really wanted to start giving back in understanding how we could bring more women together, me in the insurance industry, you as a collective on the business side.
Yeah.
Remember, like we had these conversations about, yeah, we're gonna open these chapters and we're gonna give some education. But what has transcended after that has been crazy. Like I became a business owner, you became a national, you know, thousands of women later, right?
Mhm.
So let's take it from like, in our jobs in insurance, we learn that relationships are important. But what transcend from that, it is something more than we still discovering every single day the need and the gap that exists within our communities for business owners so they can be successful, whatever success means to them,
Yeah.
right? So I'll give you the floor to tell me, the whole story, the discovery, the cries, the laughs, whatever it is, because there are many of those too.
Yeah.
But talk to me about, this journey.
I love this. I love being able to really go back to, like, that the founder story almost, like, why did WBL become what it is today? And it was because of the insurance world. So let me kind of go back to the beginning. And I think your listeners will hear or see a piece of them in this journey, a moment here or there. But really, I thought it was a straight line, right? Like I thought I had to check all the boxes and do all the things. I went to high school, went to college, and right out of college, I landed in the insurance world. I remember graduating, and I never said to myself, "Oh, I'm going to be in the insurance world. Like, I'm going to be an insurance professional." It wasn't something that I had picked, but something that had come to me. And I was lucky to land a job out of college with Electric Insurance Company, which was a big GE company, and it was unbelievable. So again, this is for the listeners. It's a direct writer. So it was one company that we worked for. It was a call center, and my role there was customer service, and the customers came to us. I never had to even think about the word networking or building my own personal brand. Like, that was never taught to me in those years. And I was there for quite some time. As I was there, I ended up moving up in the ladder, and I became a manager. And what I had found is that I love working with people. I love the people aspect of it and the helping. But along my journey, I was realizing that I don't love insurance. So this was like my first kind of like wrestling moment. The second one came with I wanted to have a family, and I was pregnant, and this was a very corporate role. I was working well over 40 hours a week. So I had to make the decision to leave this job that I absolutely loved, my career, right? Licensed, I was getting all the accreditations, I did all the education, I had the Commerce after my name, the
Yeah, the
initials.
700 letters after your name.
And I remember my husband saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what are you doing? Like, your paycheck matters. You can't just leave." And I'm like, "I know, but I have two small boys. I got to figure this out." So, long story short, I made the tough decision to leave, and I ended up at a local insurance agency here in Georgetown, Mass. And again, that wasn't planned. I had left, and I was making ends meet as a working mom. I was serving coffee at a local coffee store here in town. And that's where this opportunity became something. But they were hiring for a full time person at this local insurance agency. And I remember walking into the interview, Monica, and I don't know where I got this, like, the guts to say this, but I told the hiring, it was actually the owner of the agency that interviewed me, and I said, "Listen, I know you're hiring full time, but I'm looking for mother's hours. But if you give me a chance, I know that I can do this work within the mother's hours. But my kids, my family is my priority right now." And I was sweating, shaking, and I was like,
The
"Yeah."
palm of your hand totally, so I still, that still happens to me.
I was like, "Well, what's the worst that could happen? He's not gonna hire me." Well, wouldn't you know, he gave me the job, he hired me, and I was able to stay in my career. I still had my license, my resume mattered, but so didn't my family, so I was able in that moment to really ask for what I wanted and what I needed, and I'm so glad I did. So if there's any listeners out there right now, I couldn't believe I had the guts to do that, but it ended up working out, right? So to answer your question, the long story short is I ended up at a local insurance agency. So this was the first time I was a producer, and I had to actually get out there in the world. Now, I had not been taught this. through college, through high school, through even my corporate career, we didn't have to get out there in the world and network or build my own personal brand, create this pipeline. So this is the start of something right here, Monica. Like, should I just dive all in? Do you have any questions?
Go dive in. No, dive in. Dive in. I think
Um,
everything will come to fruition as we keep talking.
yes. Like I said, nobody taught me how to network. So what I did is the straight line path, right? Like, well, I should show up and go to all the community groups, the networking groups, and just attend. I didn't know what to do when I walked in the room. I'm so scared.
Newsflash, newsflash. Still, there is no training for that, which baffles me. Hey,
Where I
some
am now because of
now
WBL.
within the industry, there is no training for that.
Still,
Outside, yes, we can go find it with like groups like yours, but producers that are coming into the industry still don't have that training at
the
all.
training. Monica, we have to talk because we could, and I love that you use the word disrupting in your disruptor, change maker, shaking up the industry because you and I, if we do something together, this could be big. Anyways, we want to have a side conversation because we need to bring this level of training and education into the insurance world for these producers because I struggled so much. I really did as a producer. Well, no, you have these sales goals over your head, the quotas you have to meet. You have to get out there. You have to bring in the new business. You have to service your clients. It's a lot. I had no idea. So I literally self taught myself. So showing up to these networking groups, not knowing what to say, what to do, how to like leverage the room. I was so scared. And I was hiring babysitters to watch the kids so that I could go out. I was spending my own money to attend these events, but nothing was coming back. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the coffee dating. I know how powerful a one on one conversation is, right? Monica, nobody wants to have coffee with the insurance lady down the street. Nobody. Like,
No, the moment they see on your title insurance producer, you're like, nope,
no,
no, they're gonna try to sell me something. I already have an agent. I don't
that,
want to go through that headache. I don't want to talk about that. I don't care because insurance is not sexy for anybody.
no.
How do we change that?
So this is where women's business league started to come into fruition, right? So I was like, wow, I'm not liking what I'm seeing out there. I'm showing up, I'm doing all the things, but nothing is actually working. It's not, I don't know, and something was missing. But along the way, I couldn't figure out what that something was
Mhm.
until I ended up meeting my then co-founder, Amy. She was in mortgages, and we had an honest conversation, two perfect strangers at a pizza store in Georgetown, Mass. And we literally just said, this is so hard. She's trying to build her book of business. She's got two small boys. I have two small boys at home, trying to make it all work. And I remember leaning over and saying, how can I help you? And she's like, how can I help you? And that was the start of something really incredible. And I said, let me bring a couple people. And she was going to bring a couple people. And I said, let's just meet again here at the pizza store. And then we met again, and those people brought people. And then we met again, and those people brought people.
I
So
love it.
we started meeting organically. And what was happening is that we were showing up for each other because we wanted to, not because we had to. And Monica, the thing that was missing all along in all of my networking was relationships.
Mhm.
So that is where Women's Business League comes into play. And we're now putting relationships first. Because what I was feeling out there is that business was here and people were behind. So we're going to redefine and rewrite this narrative to put people first and the business will come. So that is that aha moment as a producer where everything shifted and changed for me. So, as a producer, I started leading with something of value versus selling. Nobody wants to be sold at. Like, that just does not work anymore. So, we decided to formally meet as Women's Business League. And what was happening is that I became a chapter leader of the Georgetown chapter. That was our first chapter.
Yeah.
And I started reaching out to people in our community because they were so intriguing to me. Or I had followed them and I loved what they were building. A small local cafe in Georgetown, an ice cream stand, and I remember reaching out to some of these local women and just admiring what they had built and inviting them to coffee. And my gosh, my coffee calendar went through the roof. I was booking one-on-ones like 3 a week. It was unbelievable because I was leading with something of value. I wanted to tell them about this opportunity that was Women's Business League. And oh, by the way, I'm also an insurance producer.
Yeah. And not only that, I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's giving them the space to actually not feel alone. In a space where they can come and hear, hey, I'm having this issue. Have you experienced something of this matter? Right. So it is less about selling and more about supporting. And by you giving someone the space of sharing, right,
Mm,
in a safe environment, hey guys, let's celebrate all these good things, but I also need help on X, Y, or Z. And I think that's what makes the whole difference. It's like, how do I show up? And I know that this word is used a lot out there and sometimes not used correctly. How do we show up authentically for people? At the end of the day, we all have businesses. We have something to sell, and we are driven by money. If you don't need money, good for you, but we all need money. Um, so at the end of the day, that's a given. But what is that you are leading with in terms of what you just said, value, right? What
right.
value do you bring to the table? What knowledge do you bring to the table? And I think that, I continue to be impressed by the way that you guys continue to, the organization overall and you and everybody involved continue to show up, actually, authentically. Like,
Yeah,
I met someone 4 years ago that we still friends today.
I
That's Jack,
know.
you know.
I love that.
We've gone through so many seasons of our lives, right? And we share them. We might not see each other every day, but we do share them, right? We've met so many good people in the process of. So tell me how, from that coffee shop in Georgetown to
Yeah.
now be in a national presence. What are some of the most impactful stories that you can share,
Mm,
having breaking that code of this is how actually networking looks like?
yeah. So to get back to that
Yeah.
seat of Women's Business League, remember I said that we were showing up for each other because we wanted to, not because we had to. It's
Yeah.
because we were forming relationships around the table, right? It was getting to know each other both personally and professionally. And when we had looked around the table, and we met like that for about 8 months, when we looked around the table, it happened to be women that were consistently showing up for each other. So that's where we got the name Women's Business League. And what happened is that my book of business went through the roof for the insurance business, right? Because the referrals that were happening around that table were so natural and organic because we became a sales force for one another. So the more they got to know about me and my kids and, the baseball mom, I was on the baseball field talking about everybody, and they were doing the same for me wherever they were out and about. So we really became a sales force for one another. Beyond that, what had happened is that it was like that quiet tap on the shoulder of, "Hey, whatever it is that's happening up there in Georgetown, I keep hearing about it. I wanna bring that to my community. Like, I want that for my community. How do I start that?" So that was our aha moment of saying, "Wow." you know what? We really got something here. This is something pretty incredible because we literally built the table we wanted to sit at. So we were able to take out all the crap comes with networking, actually build a business structure and a model around networking, around community that actually worked. So what that looks like, Monica, is our entire business model was built right from the members. Everything that we implemented within WBL is from the members. So the members wanted education, right? Because when we were in the corporate, we would get professional development days. And then you go off on your own and there's no education, right? It's like how do I create a LinkedIn bio? How do I start my business, you know? So those foundational questions um are are so important to the longevity of a business. So the
And
education
execution,
and the
right?
visibility. What?
You will say execution too. Like you can learn something, but do you really have people around you that can help you or guide you execute because you've done it before?
Yeah, 100%. And like you were saying, it's lonely out there. It's hard out there by yourself. So to be in community with other people that are up to really big things gives you that momentum and motivation to say, you know, I can too do this. And I can also ask for help. It's a safe community where you can really lean into this and we teach you how to ask for help. We have a whole, it's one of my favorite talks that I do is how to make a goal aligned specific ask. And it really moves the needle forward in any business. It doesn't matter if you're in insurance, or if you're like a local bakery down the street. It really makes a difference to ask for what you need.
Yeah. And a lot of people, even when they have owned their business for a while, they struggle with identifying what to ask for. Have you experienced that?
All the time. Just how powerful could it be? Imagine this. You're sitting around a table. We meet every other week. So 2 times a month, our chapters meet, and there's 30 women sitting at that table, right? And you have a big goal on your mind. So as an example, for me, let's say visibility was one of my goals. And under visibility, there's newspapers, there's magazine features, there's podcasts. So if you focus on one of those micro goals and ask for help, watch what happens. So I'm now at the table with 30 women. I share with them that my big goal for Q2 is to land 4 podcast opportunities. My goal aligned specific ask is I asked all 30 of them for an introduction to a podcast host or somebody that they knew. And wouldn't you know, I got back to my office and I had 6 email introductions to podcasts.
Amazing.
And I exceeded my goal for Can you see how powerful that is?
100%. Now, what would you say, based on your experience with so many women out there, what would you say is the biggest misconception about learning how to network and entering an environment that you probably don't trust yet, right? Because trust is a big factor for
Yeah.
all of us, especially for us women that have had bad experiences in the past.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Oof. So you're right. There is that hesitation, that fear of joining, especially something that is networking, right? Because right out of the gate, you hear that word and you're already like, ugh, right? It has that kind of negative feeling to it. So I really want to shake up this industry and redefine what networking means and feels like. And by that, I mean there is no business that succeeds without a component of networking. So if networking is not a part of your marketing plan or your business model, you're missing out. You really are. It has to be a component of. So, there's social media. You can't just rely on social media either. You have to have all of these components to build a successful business. So, what I was seeing is that folks were leaving out this whole networking notion out of their business plans and their business models. And I always say, how were businesses built before the internet?
Relationships, shaking hands. That's not changing. That's never changing,
It
ever.
will it will never change, and those organizations and businesses that really embrace this are going to survive, especially during this AI. We don't know what's coming, but I wholeheartedly feel that the brands, the businesses that keep the human in their business model are going to succeed along with AI, along with social media, along with all of the other things. But you can't just erase the human connection, the one-on-ones, the coffee dating, the Zoom chats like this. It's so critical to your business.
You leverage that technology is the biggest difference. So, for example, I'm gonna take myself as an example because I like to talk by experience, right? Like no one knows that I did not attend for 14 months a single event last year. So for 14 months, I had to take that I was going to focus on the business. I had a big goal because we were getting prepped to get the company to be acquired. That require 110% of me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so how we're gonna do this? Because, I mean, we people is so used to me being out there. People is so used of me going, talking in events, and
Right.
that generates a pipeline for the agency for business and things like that. So how do we leverage technology to do that? So what we did is that I selected certain referral partners, certain friends that, I will see consistently, that we will keep in touch and we will, make sure that I had FaceTime with them.
Mhm.
And then we just leverage technology, right?
Yeah.
100% to feed out there, right? LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and we leverage this AI and whatnot, and then I will pick up the phone when I needed to and things like that. But it did not require 100% of me of going out there. It required 25% of me the work and 75% of me, focusing on the business and the goals that I needed to achieve in order to get where we needed to be.
Mhm.
Then my health got compromised, right? So I had surgery and whatnot. I kept that part very private, right? So, but I kept showing up for
Right.
people out there, right? I kept showing up for people out there in different ways. And I believe that that's the magic of where we are living today, and how do we leverage these tools today, because you need to continue to show up for people. But how does that look like and what does that mean? It's very different that it was before. However, nothing out there, no AI, no bot, no avatar or whatever it is will replace that human connection that you need to have. So how do you continue to show up with that human connection while leveraging, right? And creating a platform that continues to feel that it is real and that, it is trusting, right? And that um, overall, you can continue to provide that value, even though you might be a little bit more hands off than before. However, on the other side, so people will be like, oh my God, I see you everywhere. Oh my God, I love this and I love that. And then here at home, I'm dying because I'm like, oh my God, I want to go dinner. I want to go lunch. But they also require a behavioral change on myself too,
Right.
accept that I didn't have to be present 150% of the time, and that now when I show up to network or when I show up to, conferences or things like that, it has to be extremely intentional, and, the time has to be well used
Right.
It's not just showing up to have a coffee. It's showing up with intention and value. And I love how you have a structured way that the Women's Business League does that.
Yeah. So, first of all, it is that whole trust. It's that trust issue. For me, consistency builds trust. So the consistency in what you built is so important. I've seen a lot of businesses or business owners, service providers, they get an idea, they start something, they get so excited, and then it fizzles away. And then it fizzles, right? So, but it's that consistency over time that will build the trust. So this is for your insurance producers, but also for your big brand businesses, right? So you have your business brand, but you also have your personal brand. And I really strongly feel that your personal brand trumps any business brand. So when I was an insurance producer, yeah, there was a sign on the building.
Hmm.
People don't do business with the sign. They do business with me, Melissa Gilbo. So once they got to know me and see my heart and how involved I was in the community, how much I cared about them as a client, it was a game changer for my personal brand. So I did a lot in the community and I also did a lot for my clients. They saw me as a resource because I was involved in this community, in this networking community. They knew I knew a lot of people. So I then became their trusted resource and also their insurance producer, right? Their insurance agent. So my new homeowners, I would connect them with all the local businesses in town, the landscaper, the house cleaner. It became so powerful. And that's how people start to trust and they see that there's longevity here, there's consistency. The other thing that I see all the time, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves, Monica, like if you want to see my head spin around, is folks that say they're going to do something and then they don't do it.
Mhm.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Don't say it if you're not going to do it. Don't just talk to talk or fill the air. You have to follow up. You have to be that person that people will trust. Same thing with the brand, right? So I think that answers your question in terms of that stability, that trust, that authenticity. And I get you. I hear you. We hear that word all the time, but what makes it feel so real is that there is a lot of heart and attention behind what we're doing here at WBL. And I know for you as well, what you're building, you put a lot of your heart, your energy into it. It's very intentional. We're not building just to build. We're not building to scale. We're building something of impact. And that's a difference.
And I think also, it's more a legacy than it is the now. And I think that makes the biggest difference. I remember, and I'm glad that you brought up that, don't talk to fill the air and do what you need to do, because I remember I was working with an agency owner a few years ago, and he told me something that I till today I'm like, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
What?
Because, and I think that has been a lot of the fire also that lies within us too. Like when we go through situations like this one, where he told me that I lacked execution, and I was like, from this perspective, you think, right? I lack execution, and he couldn't tell me, right? It's just because my goals were not aligned with his goals, so I lacked execution of his goals, not mine, right? So also the people that you surround yourself with is
Yes,
important to analyze, because sometimes we're in the wrong places with the wrong people
that's true.
a lot of times, and we get discouraged of doing certain things because the alignment is not there. So I remember that day a few years ago, and I came back home and I was like, oh my God, am I capable of doing what I want to do? Like, I started second guessing myself
Yeah,
because of that comment. But that comment, with time, I understood that comment wasn't for me. That comment was for him, because I was unwilling to do the things that he wanted to do because I saw it differently and I was differently from the way that I knew it would work for me, right?
Yep.
Um, and sometimes, also having the maturity to have that conversation with other people is important
Yeah.
because you really need to surround yourself with people that have your same mindset. I bet, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of your circles, a lot of the chapters that you have, people have come and go for that same reason because maybe there's maybe 30 women that want to do business together, but maybe they all don't have the same goals. And until you have people that have kind of like the same mentality of,
Right.
hey, this is where we want to go, it is really hard to someone to see the value in something. Does it am I
Yeah.
too honest, or is that like accurate?
No, that is 100% accurate. So when we first built Women's Business League, we thought women were going to come just for like the referrals, right? Just for the networking. But that's not why they're showing up, Monica. They're showing up for community. They're
Yes.
showing up for camaraderie, connections, collaboration, science. Like there's all the C's, right? They're showing up for all these different reasons. And community is really one of the biggest reasons why they stay, because who you surround yourself with is really another game changer for your professional and your personal. It goes both ways, professional and personally. um Once you start sitting in these rooms where you're like, oh my gosh, look what she just did, or look at that client, whoa, it gives you that, oh my gosh, I can do this too. It gives you that motivation, um to think bigger, to do bigger, to set a different goal, to get uncomfortable. We all play in that comfortable realm, right? And sometimes I just did a talk on this the other day, which I love, is that sometimes you need to borrow somebody else's confidence to do the thing, right? Yeah, like you need to lean on somebody or borrow their confidence. Sometimes they see it in you before you see it in yourself. And when you surround yourself with these communities, it is a big game changer for both you personally and professionally to keep going one step at a time.
And I believe that, regardless of which part of the journey you are in, still good to have that community because you are all going to celebrate together
Yes,
as you go from stage A to stage B, or if you're already on a stage, and now you're going to stage C, doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
It's celebrating together and being right that stepping stone for other people too, regardless of where you are in your journey.
That's right.
So you could be, you know, having, I don't know, $1 million in revenue, or you can have $1,000 in revenue. You both can learn from each other and help each other, right?
Send. Oh my
And I
gosh.
think that's the beauty of it.
It is. I always say, do not compare your chapter 2 with somebody else's chapter 28, right? You cannot have that comparison model, but when you're in community with folks from all different stages, right? You got your new business owners, you got your business owners in there that have been doing this for over 30 years. We all learn from each other. And it is really powerful to be able to, you reach back, but you also mentor. You can do all these different things once you're in these communities. And it doesn't have to be WBL. It can be something as simple as like your local pickleball community or the book club down the street. Not downtown. I don't know. Like my wish for the listeners here is to really think about and be intentional about which communities you're joining, how you're going to spend your time. Is it worth your time? Um, it's really important. So I really want them to have an aspect of this in their plan. I don't know. I just see so many businesses leaving this piece out, the community piece, the networking piece, the visibility piece, and it's scary. Like it's still a critical component of running a successful business.
Yeah. And I think, switching gears to the insurance industry super quick for those new producers, right, that are emerging now, that grew up in a different era than we did, different environment than we did, right? Where a lot of behind the screen and it's not, face to face and whatnot. They need to find community.
I do.
Maybe they don't have, the idea yet that becoming a producer, it is your own business, people. It
It,
is your own business. You gotta treat it like it. You gotta treat it like it is that you're starting from zero. What you just said about finding your community is so important. I wish someone had told me that 20 years ago. I
same.
mean, I don't regret my journey. I've
Right.
gotten here because this is where God wants me to be, and I'm grateful for that journey. But if someone had told me 20 years ago, Monica, you just have to focus in community, it took me 15 years to figure that out, you know?
Well, I've lived it. I felt it. I created that journey was so hard, and I wish somebody had told me that 15 years ago. For like 12
So
years in the insurance world, and I what? Why wasn't this a thing? You know?
yeah. So, if like for example, my team at Greasy, I've always told them, what is that you like? What do you like to do? What is that you like to spend your time on? And I always tell them, start there. If you like to go and ski, then find the club that do that and meet people through
Right.
something that you're passionate about, right? If you like, I don't know, like I'm a foodie. So anyone that tells me let's explore a new restaurant, I'm in. So I'll join like a foodies club or something like that, right? Like I'm all for women. So how do I start it? I joined the Women's Business League 5 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
Other communities out there. I wanted to learn more about my own Latina community. So I started spending more time in that community, right?
right.
But it is community. And at the end of the day is relationships. So that's never gonna go away. We
Never.
all have to focus on it. And it's so simple at the end of the day. You just
Yeah,
have to show up with what you have to give.
that's right.
That on a day that someone is having a hard day, smiling because just you can, and somebody else don't have the ability to smile today, so just smile with them for them, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be money, and it doesn't have to be this grandeur app.
that's right.
I've learned that the simple things are the most important, right? So this is the first time I'm gonna talk about this, but I don't know. I feel like it's important. In September, I turned 40 in September last year, and a few days after my birthday, was diagnosed, and I was told that I needed surgery to remove a mass from my uterus was having such a hard time, right? And I didn't want to tell anybody. I did not tell anybody. But, there were some of my friends that I met through community that were like, something's going on with Monica. Like she's been out, she's not responding to text messages, she's not calling us, she's not. So I have one of them show up at my house unannounced. What the heck is going on? Right. And I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody. So, when you put yourself out there, when you really show up for people, all of that eventually is gonna come back to you in different ways, in different forms.
That's
Not
right.
just business, but when you actually need it personally, right? We are now in, let's say, my surgery was November, so December, so we're about 5 months into like, and we're healthy, we're good, we're back to business, we don't have anything to worry about, but that psychological support of just knowing that,
Yeah.
my friend offered to go pick up my daughter at school. They offered to come here to the house and make me some tea, or like help me walk down the stairs or like, things like that. It's beyond business, right? When they are out there, they're like, "Oh, you need X, you need to talk to Monica." Or if I'm out there, "You need X, you need to talk to, this person," right? When
Yep.
I am, like, talking to I always mention it, I was like, "Have you talked to have you met where do you live? Like, what's happening? Do you have a group already?" And, it's good to know that people that you can refer out or say or talk good about them, because at the end of the day,
Yep.
you might not be making an immediate impact at that moment, but you're planting the seed to help that person in the future, regardless if that person knows it or not.
That's right.
That's the beauty of becoming embedded into community. So I really appreciate a lot of what you do, because
Thank you.
we, especially as women, especially in the insurance industry too,
Yeah.
it is so hard,
It is.
so hard sometimes that confidence goes away and you have to, like,
Yeah.
yeah, you need to recharge. We're now like the Tesla stations where we have to, like, plug in, and these are the moments where we plug in and we recharge. Those meetings every
That's
2 weeks,
right.
coffee meetings, those events that you guys do amazing events. Like, I'm planning to come back to events this year, but
Yeah.
it is amazing to feel that you belong,
Yes.
right? And that you
Yes.
are cared for.
Yes. Yes. My gosh, there's so many sound bites in that last segment that so good. And I just want to give you like the biggest hug. I can't imagine what you've been through in the last couple months, but my goodness, my love to you. And when I see you, I'm gonna give you the biggest hug ever.
I am a hug machine,
I
so
know.
that's okay.
So I'm like, ah, but gosh, it all matters. It really does. This conversation was so critical, and I really feel like those producers out there, the women producers, like get yourself into a WBL community or a community like Women's Business League. It is a game changer for your business, both personally and professionally, like Monica was just saying. So, yeah, I think you should have like a town hall for insurance professionals or something. Like, let's get them in a room. And
I know said I need to talk, and we haven't talked, but I already know what she's gonna talk to me about. So
I know. Like,
something's coming down the pipeline.
so I can feel it brewing. I love this.
Well, guys, thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for everyone listening today. There has to be a part 3 now,
There has to
because
be. Yeah.
there has to be.
Can it not be 5 years from now? Can it be like sooner than 5 years?
Yeah, it will be like few months from now. Like, forget it, not years. No, a few months from now, because we're gonna bring something special to these people listening here today.
Yes. Yeah.
I think I know where your line of thinking is going, but I appreciate you sharing. I think it's always important, for people to be reminded of, you know it is not just a job, of how we operate, or just because we're business owners. It is not just a responsibility, it's a way of living. Showing up this way, becoming part of community, it is a way of living, and I think that's the most important aspect. So if anyone listening today is still struggling a little bit or haven't found, like, a good group of people that, has your back through and through, definitely explore it out, because it's something that you will succeed regardless, but you succeed faster when you are in community. So thank you, Melissa, for sharing. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next episode.
Yes. Thank you.